I've
Ah,
got microphone.
I hear you.
Ah,
There we
I
go.
hear him. I
Just
hear
a,
you.
just a little froze. Ah, there we go.
it's
All right, welcome.
hello, hello.
How are you?
It's a pleasure, man.
Welcome. I'm good. Blessings.
Awesome. Blessings to you.
Blessings.
And to you, Ray. You've been and Geo. How are you, Geo?
I'm doing good. How are you? Great to finally meet you.
Thank you very much. I brought a toy. Toy. This is called stress relief.
Yeah, gonna need it after that whole ordeal.
Right, and is that a globe?
Yeah. And we can do
Right. I like that.
yeah, that's what you do with the globe.
You squish
It's
it.
called muscle training.
Right.
Squish
Well,
it.
actually, shouldn't you flatten
Hold on. Ugh.
it? There you go. That's more like it. Yeah, first things first, man. It's an honor.
Okay, Ray. So how can I help you?
Well, first things first. I gotta say one more
I
time.
appreciate. Thank you.
It's more than an honor to have you on. About 8 years ago, I watched Crossing Over, 2012, and I was already deep into Santos's work, and that was when I was going through my awakening process. And at that time, my dark night of the soul had just begun. But people like you and Santos and a few select people really got me through my dark night. So it's why you guys hold a special place in my heart.
Well, that the honor is mine as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Oh, I've watched it probably over 15 times. I'm obsessed with astrology. I'm obsessed with the universe.
The one problem is that they cheated us by 8 years.
Cheated us in what way?
In other words, it should have been 21. It should have been 2112, 2020, when Saturn and Jupiter became conjunct on the solstice, on your winter solstice.
Because that was the real date, right? It was at the actual ingress into the age.
I think so.
Something around there. I always hear true. I think it's maybe more from the feminine principle, how there's not like this straight logical answer to it, but it just happens to be around this time. And that would be a good day to pick. I actually felt the shift when that happened. I looked forward to the conjunction, and I did feel a shift. I have felt this year has been more different than any other year in my life.
Oh, without a doubt. We have learnt more in this year than all previous exploration. So many subjects we've had to understand, and it's all crazy.
It is, and a lot of it came all at once, and especially the flat Earth. And I mean, the first thing that got me into all this was astrology, and it was the understanding of the ages. And one night I had been on psilocybin mushrooms, and it was a few weeks after I watched Zeitgeist for the first time. And I just knew in my heart, astrology and the occult, and there was a deeper, meaning to religions. And I'm a big fan of Bill Donahue. I tell everybody, I don't know if from Hidden Meanings, he's one of my favorite people too. And you guys have I love your generation a million times better than mine.
Well, we were doing psilocybin mushrooms a long time ago.
That's the doorway, man.
So what shall we discuss?
Well, there's plenty to discuss,
sure.
But I actually, what's funny is I have yours right here, and then I had your video on when you sat with Santos, the video where you had the map of the Earth, and it was your own version, and you had all the writings in it, the one I just had purchased. And I guess what I would want to go through first is the ages, because I know that one of my favorite talks you ever did was the Yuga cycles and where we're entering with the Yuga cycles, where we're at.
Yes.
And then we could talk about the Earth and its beautiful disc shape.
Well, thank you. So when I did the video with Santos, crossing over, 2012 crossing over, the producer, his name is Amel Tresnich. He's made some very nice documentaries.
That's the Brave Archer.
The problem, yeah, Brave Archer.
Right.
The problem is that he had a series of questions that I felt were not correct. So if you look in the video, you'll see there's 2 interviews. One is in one area, and then I told him about what's called Prima Yuga. So ordinarily there is Satya, golden, Treta, silver, Dwarf, bronze, and Kali, iron age. And these go in a cycle this way: gold, silver, bronze, iron, gold, silver, bronze, iron, like that. Whereas the information they were asking was going gold, silver, bronze, iron, iron, bronze, gold, silver. This is incorrect. So this is called a Maha Yuga. When you put all 4 yugas together, it's called a Maha Yuga or Chata Yuga. It's about 4,320,000 years long.
That's a special number. I put all my music in 432.
Indeed. So on my map, you'll see I put the music chart, A equals 432
right.
hertz. Because that's what's called the sexagesimal or sexadecimal counting system. Technically, it's called Vedic mathematics. But some people will say that it's Sumerian or it's Egyptian.
It's
but actually,
we're doing
Sumer
on the Anunnaki. So.
But Sumer is short for the word Meru or Sumeru. So the Aryans who worshipped Sumeru or Meru, being the center, North Pole, the magnetic center of the flat Earth. So sexadecimal or sexagesimal is really based on 108. 108 times 2 is 216, times 4 is 432. And then you can expand it from there. So I read the book called Bhagavad Gita as it is. And in the introduction, there is one line of mathematics in the introduction. And it tells you, excuse me, it tells you the sequence of Vedic time. Now, in amongst this cycle, 4 yugas, when this cycle goes so many times through, then comes Prima Yuga. Prima means unconditional love for God and God's creation. But it can't be, it's not an understanding. Most religions don't know this, or if they do, they never share it to the public or the community. It's sitting there.
Why?
Religions need control over you.
Right.
So the self-realized man or woman is trying to swim through all the dialogue, right, to find the truth. So sexagesimal and sexadecimal, the same counting system. And you will see that the Catholics have some beads. It's called the rosary.
Right.
There's 54 beads. In the Hare Krishna mantra, they have 108. So it's the same principle, but cut in half. 54, half of 108.
And these numbers repeat all throughout cycle in all areas. This is the divine math, is it not?
Absolutely. So if we look into the Vedas, there is one picture where Lord Brahma is the creator, and he is sitting on a lotus flower. It comes from Vishnu's navel. It's all black, all dark. Nothing is there. And he is sitting there meditating. Brahma has 4 heads. That's the 4 directions. And he is meditating. And after some time, Krishna uses his flute and sends into Brahma's ear the maths formulas for creation, which includes Fibonacci, golden mean, like that. So if we have a look at a nautilus shell, you know the nautilus seashell? It's got a spiral, 1.618, like that. And each compartment, when you cart, is 1.08 bigger than the previous one. So all plants, when they're growing, the next branch goes golden mean, so that the sunlight can come down through the canopy and all the leaves can have photosynthesis. So this place has been created, but the other religions don't know, or if, as I said, they do, they won't tell. Probably in the Vatican library somewhere is the formula. So even with the COVID, they were saying flatten the curve.
Sending symbols.
Do you follow?
Always, right. Always telling you right to your face, but hidden in plain sight.
That's right. Absolutely. In plain sight. Now, the main problem is that all the flat earthers are either in Europe or in America. And they don't understand something. So you know that image of Chicago across the lake?
Yeah, where the you see the building and it's supposed to be where you can't see it anymore because it would be the curve, but you can.
Yes, but there's an error in that photograph and in the maths. The error is that when you're looking left to right, east to west or west to east on different latitudes, the circumference is changing. So on that lake, it's 42 degrees north. Straight across the bay.
Right.
And then just north, you can do it again. There's another city. Is it Michigan or something? It's a bit further north.
Yes.
Yeah.
Michigan.
That's 42 degrees, 44 degrees. That means the circumference is getting smaller the closer you go to the pole.
Makes sense.
That means the circumference is smaller, and that means curvature should be greater. It's not that there's one rule for curvature. So how they tricked us is the longitude is magnetic on the flat plane. The latitudes are actually circles, and you can see them here. But when you come to the equator, the circles get bigger and bigger and bigger. So when I'm in Melbourne or Victoria, 38 degrees south, and that means that curvature should be dropped by 22.5% or more increased. The circumference has changed, the increase. So how are we to understand that? If you have a child on a little wheel push bike, and a person adult on 28-inch wheel. This one, the little child, is having to pedal more because the circumference is smaller on his wheel. So it has to go around more to make the same distance that the big wheel is doing. It's called gearing. Technically, it's called gearing, right?
Right.
So here at 38 degrees south, the circle is bigger than the equator. Bigger. And because I've been doing my observations, my first observations were north along the longitudinal line, because that's the magnetic compass, the only measurement you can get. Compass has to be flat, always points to center, to Meru, the mountain, magnetic lodestone center. But if I put this ball and I cut it into slithers, boom, 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 the circumference is changing.
Right. Yeah, it's going to get smaller by the ends.
So if I'm sitting here on the North Pole, I'm actually not moving. The sky is moving 15 degrees per hour. 360 divided by 24 is 15 degrees. Now, how I know what I'm saying is true, in Australia, you can see 1, 2, 3. So in the timeline, this is backwards, sorry for that, but in the timeline, what's called East Coast summertime, by the time you get to Adelaide, which is here-ish, there's half an hour difference, but across the country is 2 hours. But this is 30 degrees, nearly 45 degrees. That's nearly 3 hours is the time gap between East Coast and West Coast. Say, and the perimeter waters, some islands, whatever. That's how big Australia is. But also
East Coast and West Coast is 3 hours?
Easily.
Okay. Same thing like the United States.
Yes. However, divisions of the clock face, even we can see these degrees are getting bigger and bigger as they go. And then we think that they come back again and go back to another point. But actually, those vectors, this is a vector, you see, it's coming from zero and getting bigger and bigger. And what that's telling us is the sun, in your time, in June, summertime, sun is going around Tropic of Cancer at 23.4 degrees north of equator. And so this is your summertime. Oops, I'll do it the right way. It doesn't matter to me because this is crazy. So I don't care which way I hold it. But the tropic here, Tropic of Cancer, it's going through America. There it is. See? So in summertime, the sun is moving a certain speed. But as the sun rotates around on the flat earth, it gets faster and faster. When it comes, we call December 21, we call that our summertime. The sun is moving across the vector. We can see it's moving across the vector faster and faster. We can see it, but only within here and here is 23 degrees. It's not very understandable. It's not until you get to the southern hemisphere or outside the equator on the flat world that you start to think, oh dear. So, just so you know, here is Tropic of Capricorn. That's at 23.4 south of the equator. I'm down here at 38 degrees. But in our summer, the sun is rising. We have 4 faces of the house. On the south side, the sun is rising on the south side and setting on the south side. But that's 15 degrees further than the Tropic of Capricorn. So I have a feeling the sun does not come only to the Tropic of Capricorn. It comes much further south or further wide on the plate in order for the sun angle.
I was going to say it moves in a spiral for the seat, because people always ask if the Earth's flat, it's got to move in. How did the seasons work? And does it work in a spiral up and then come back down and get wider again? Like, what would be the motion of the sun?
There are four seasons.
Right.
There are 4 seasons, 2 equinox and opposite solstice. So on March 21, which was last weekend, the sun begins its cycle on the equator, inward to Tropic of Cancer.
Gotcha.
First season. Then out to equator again from June to September. That's the second season. Then the third season is going all the way to December 21. That's our summer, your winter. And then goes back into the equinox on March 21. That's 4 seasons.
Right. And using the Fibonacci math of the spiral of coming in and then coming and going out. And that's why you guys...
I think so. So here's the point. 1 year ago, I found out about a stone calendar in the ground here in Melbourne. It's original Australians, and it is 14,000 years old. It's in a vector, this being the observer. The center is equinox. One is June 21, one is December 21, and March and September. And what the Indigenous Australians have done, it's called Wurdi Yuang, W-U-R-D-I, Yuang, Y-U-A-N-G. What they have done is from the observer point, you can see equinox, you can see solstice, equinox, solstice, equinox. It's in a V, it's in a vector. So what I'm trying to share is when we see things like Stonehenge, yes, it's true you can use it as a circle, but what I'm saying is that this place is 10,000 years earlier, and it's just very, very simple. So I've been going there. The weather has been strange. I went there on December 21, but you couldn't see. The sky was the same color grey as this background. You could not see conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn.
I think that happened here too.
They're messing with the weather.
What? Yeah.
I said that too.
Yep.
What can I say? Get a spray can.
Well, what happened in Texas, I think, really made it clear that they're messing with the weather. They had a winter storm. It was like an Arctic storm, and it happens in Texas randomly. And I'm pretty sure stuff was going on that day, too, to be distracted from. I'm sure there was something political to be distracted from that day.
But you know what they say? Don't drink that snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did you see the videos where they're holding up the lighter to the snow and they're just burning it? It looked like a plastic toy.
Yeah, the same in Ireland last year. Some people were going and collecting the snow. Don't touch it.
No.
So what I'm trying to say to you guys is the world we live in is a construction. And when we understand Vedic maths, so let me show you the ball again. This one here, North Pole, this is 90 degrees or a quadrant. At 45 degrees, halfway, the circumference is 10,800 nautical miles.
Is that number again? 108.
That's why I only use nautical miles. This one here, the circumference, 21,600
Same numbers.
nautical miles. Okay, now why do we say sexagesimal or sexadecimal maths? Because there are 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. Now the word hour, we know comes from the word Horus, the Egyptian god of the hawk, right? But in Sanskrit, the word is Hora, Hora. The Egyptians have that word, but they've changed it. The English has spelled it different. So Horus is in charge of the day, and his brother Set.
Is that Harari? Huh? Is that where Harari comes from astrology too? Hora?
It may do. It may do. But here's the point. The sexagesimal means that everything that this math is based on nautical or navigating miles. So on this circumference, even flat, when this is flat, the equator, 60 nautical miles equals 1 degree. Now, because America has followed certain systems of UK, England, although you have a US gallon, you know, it's a little bit different from the imperial. The point is that latitude and longitude is in nautical miles, navigating miles, the navigators, the navigati. Navigati in Sanskrit is the origin of the word to navigate. So they knew everywhere. They knew everywhere. Flat, in a circle, perfect. The problem is that if you say latitude and longitude, so where are you, Ray? What area?
We're both in New Jersey.
Archer. So you'll have a latitude and a longitude where you are in New Jersey. But then the brain wants to think about statute or US miles. In Europe, they want to know about kilometers. Bus. To understand the flat earth, you must use navigational terms. Nautical. That's why they call it an astronaut or a cosmonaut. Nautical. So they use an astrolabe on the sea, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's astronomy, astra. We put the O in because we think it comes from Greece, but actually all comes from Sanskrit. The word astra means star, or it means weapon, as in nuclear weapon. It's interesting to note that AstraZeneca means weapon that kills.
And that's the pharmaceutical.
Hidden in plain sight.
Now, go ahead. No, go ahead. You go.
No, you go, Gio. What would you like to ask?
I just so you were mentioning the horas. Now, what is the concept behind? I know that I think that like there's like a homage to each hour given to each planet that they do, like I forget what it's called, the hora hymns or something along the line.
Yeah.
What's the concept behind that as to knowing which planet it is that they're giving that representation to each hour?
So the planets in Sanskrit are known as graha, and graha means wandering stars. The stars are all fixed. The grahas are wandering. Looks like it's been upgraded. Sorry. the planets, the grahas are wandering. So there's 7 of them, as in the 7 days of the week, the 7 chakras, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 notes in an octave, the 7 visible with the human eye illuminaries are the graha. And that goes all the way to Jupiter, Saturn. So it's Sunday, sun, moon day, moon, Monday, moon. Next one is Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. And the understanding is that that's the distance from us. So the one that's closest is Sun, and the next one is Moon. Next one is Mars. Now, how do we know that this is correct? There is no picture of a new moon. There's no photograph, no anything. There might be a composite, but what you see is the last phase of the waning moon and the new phase of the waxing moon, but you never see the new moon because it's behind the sun. It's further away. It's gone behind the sun. That's what makes it new. So that new moon, in its cycle of the phases, right? That takes 29 days. And it's usually where the sun is setting on the full moon is exactly opposite. But it runs in a 27-month cycle, about 2.5 years, 29 cycles. So I'm not sure exactly. I'm working that out. And what that means is that after 2.5 years, they add in the Vedic, they add in an extra month. It becomes a leap month. From go on.
The 13. The 13, because I have a lot of people who ask me. I have a buddy who's obsessed with the Ophiuchus sign, and he tries to add it in, and because he's born around that time. And I know that I've heard the moon phase through a year sometimes is 13 months, and that was his argument actually to me. Oh, well, why is the moon need 13 months for its whole cycle? But you're saying it's every 2 years. That's that leap year.
Indeed. So the experiment I'm hoping to run at the calendar, Wurdi Yuan calendar, is to see whether the moon is rising as the sun is setting, to actually to create an exact point, and then maybe go there in 1 month time and see if the moon is behind 180 degrees opposite. The point that the 13, what's interesting about 13 is that in the Vedas, it says that the moon is falling behind the sun by 13 degrees a day, right? So it's the 13 into 360 degrees is giving you the parallel, the sequence. So it is said that there are 13 Purnima, full moons, or lunar cycles in a year. Now let's get back to the 4 seasons just for a minute.
Wherever you want to go, we're all ears.
Yeah.
When I spoke to the custodians of the calendar, some of the rocks have been knocked down, but between the sighting stone, where you stand, they put some rocks about 30 meters, about 100 feet in front. And then on the background, there is a mountain range. And they set the saddle, what's called a saddle. They set the gun sight behind in the front with 2 rocks. And then they put where the saddle is in the Brisbane Ranges behind. So like on a rifle, you've got the close sight, and then you've got the furthest sight. Mm-hmm. And they got to line up. That way you know. But I said to him, his name is Reg Abrahams, there should be 91 rocks between the sighting stone and the solstice marker. and the same 91 in the other direction. And the reason is 4 times 91 and a piece equals 364 and a bit to make 365.
Amazing.
Now, in the northern hemisphere, when you come to December, from December 21 to December 25 is 3 days. They're known as the Three Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Orion's belt.
And the length of the day from sunrise to sunset is the same for 3 days. But here in Australia, it's 8 days. The length of the day within Kui, within a little bit, is the same length for 8 days. So from about the 20th of December to the 28th, the sun is doing this big, huge circle. And although the sunrise and sunset is a little different, the length of the day is the same. So what I'm trying to share is that's when the sun changes in an electromagnetic way. The sun changes. So you know how the old record player used to work? You put the needle on the record and the record rotates, but the needle goes in. Mm-hmm. So imagine having a backtrack where then once it got to the inner circle, the needle started to go back out again. And although we're flat and we're stationary, that's the best way I can show you mechanically how the sun is behaving in an electromagnetic way. And that creates the eddies, which you call storms, right? Like on the bow of a ship, the bow is creating phi ratio waves. So the sun, only on salt water, as it crosses the salt, creating electromagnetic charge, is creating the storms that run opposite direction. So I think in north it's anti-clockwise or something, and then it's in the opposite here. That there's hurricanes and the cyclones, etc. The storms, they rotate opposite.
So that's like the flat Earth jet stream.
Yes.
Same idea.
That's right.
Amazing.
So what I'm trying to say is that when the sun is going around the outside circle, it's going very fast. And it's also going higher. And people don't understand what I'm saying because, you know, when you go to a fair, they have this thing called a hanging swing. Mm-hmm. They put the arms like this, and then they hang the chains. And then they put the seat, and then they rotate it. And the guy on the outside goes up and faster. Everyone's traveling through the vector at the same time, but the inner guy is going slower, and the middle guy is going medium, and the outer guy is going fast.
Centrifugal force, right? Different.
Indeed. So in the Vedas, it says the sun has 3 speeds. Now, at noon, on the equator, the sun is traveling at 900 nautical miles or knots, nautical miles per hour on the equator. That's the speed. And when it's on the inside, on Tropic of Cancer, it's about it's slower, and on the outside it's faster.
With the same law.
What I'm trying to shift,
with the same mindset of the swing. So as it goes outwards, the sun's gonna get faster and faster, and it comes back in, it starts to slow down.
Yes.
And that's represented, like you said, the Vedas, isn't it about like they say like the golden chariot and its wheel, and how when the wheel spins it's coming in more and then it's going out more?
In other words, like a needle on a record, you only need one wheel on that sun chariot.
Yes. Now I get that.
Wow.
Because the pole from the center, Meru, to Polaris only needs one angle. This connection here, the axle, is connected to the pole. That's what's rotating. So only needing one wheel in the groove, in the track, in the path, the electromagnetic guide system, right? It can't jump. So getting back to that calendar, that means the Indigenous Australian men and women with 91 rocks on each side of the marker could tell what day it was. See, they go from March 21 and count 91 days. June 21, count 91 back, September 21, and go off 91 again, and then back to December and then back, you see?
Wow.
That's why they had to have 91 rocks. So if they're going to reorganize it, those rocks will be placed exactly 91 segments of 23.4 degrees.
Oh, that's a mirror of the 432.
The 23.4, although this is what's really important, a quadrant is 90 degrees. So what's 90 minus 23.4?
23, so 67.6 or 66.6?
66.6.
Is that special number?
You see?
That is
on
so
all
funny.
their globe maths.
Well, I
On
just
all their globe maths. Go on. Now you talk.
we just had another guest on yesterday, and his name's Derek, and he does gematria and the Kabbalah, and he does amazing work. The guy's incredible, and he had ran my cipher. He ran 4 ciphers on me, and 666 came up a bunch with my numbers. And it's just 2 days in a row now, these come up. And I watched Bill Donahue. Another thing came up with him talking about the 666 and the 6 protons, 6 neutrons, electrons. And that was a big part of our conversation yesterday. And just the fact that you're bringing it up again, man, it's just incredible. Synchronicities have been insane. And that's what I mean about this year being so special. It's been the strongest synchronistic year I've had yet. Had to throw that.
Well, you young guys are going to carry the torch.
We'll gladly. We'll be the pioneers.
The point is that our generation has done the work. We've done it to the best of our ability. Excuse me.
God bless.
We've done it to the best of our ability. Studied so many books, so many. I've been to more than, I don't know, I've been to at least 2,000 or 3,000 lectures in my life. So I know people like Nassim Haramein and Dan Winter and Jane 108 and Max Egan and all these fellows. I know them all personally. Now I know you, Ray, and you, Gio, personally.
Yeah.
So we've done the best we can.
An honor.
We've done the best we can. And now what we've got to do is ask you guys to be very serious. Now, when I said to you, you've got to know navigational terms to understand. It's called an aeroplane. It's called, you understand, we're on a plane. That's for sure. And we have to have angles of aeroplanes with the lift under their wings, and they should be like this, get around the curve, and it's not like that. So one of the things I will tell you, so you can understand this. In Australia, I came here from England when I was 9 years old, and they had a stencil a stencil with you mark with a pencil, Australia. And you had to put where the states are, put the lines in and name the states. If you talk to any Australian, they tell you that they know the shape of Australia. Well, they passed the test, or they failed and had to go back and do it again until they were brainwashed that they knew how big Australia was.
Repetition.
Because they remember the little plastic stencil. You see? So it's ingrained in the brain.
Indoctrination.
But if you get around, if you go onto the internet and get Australia images on the globe, and you make the globe the same size, the circle, Australia changes shape, bigger, changes shape, angles, everything. They have no idea what they're doing. So let me show you. Here is another globe. And see the shape of Australia? And this is a globe. And look at the difference in the shape.
Yeah. I have noticed that there always is a variation with Australia and the shape and the size every time it's, on certain images. It's really, really odd.
So you know then that the only one that's true is the flat one, the flat circle. So let's understand something else. Have you guys looked into HHO?
No.
HHO is when they put the water and put electrical and it makes a gas. And they can put the gas into a gas torch, like an oxygen torch, or what's it called? What's the gas for cutting? Acetylene gas. You can put the HHO gas, and it's doing cutting. Very fast, reacts to metal and hard things like rocks. So that reacts really fast. However, that's just the sun changing. However, if we understand what the Lord, what the scriptures are saying, outside the firmament, excuse me.
No worries.
One mouthful of ginger tea.
I've been doing the ginger kombucha lately. It's my favorite.
I did the kombucha back in the 90s. We used to brew our own. Anyway.
It's probably awesome. I hate all this pre-made crap. I wish I could do everything myself.
You're a busy man, Ray. There's only so much you can do.
I know. Especially here in America, man. It's the land of never stopping.
Trying to keep up.
Keeping up and doing, I do music too, and I study constantly. I probably have over 800 books in my closet. A lot of them came from Santos. Any book that man has mentioned, I've made sure I got a PDF or I bought the book. Sometimes I spend $300 on eBay just to get a book because it's so rare. But yeah, busy is right. It's worth it.
Yes, but the point is, excuse me, our Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, our Dharma is to discover God, the truth of where we exist. I have shown my map to many gurus that give me 3 different answers. One, they say, but what about so-and-so when I'm in a different country? Which is called, it's almost gaslighting. Another man will say, yes, like the bullock is going round the pole. The sun is doing that. And then they'll quote a verse. And the other ones will tell you the truth from their perspective. I was raised in India, but the British education system is what I went through. So now you have got me. I can't tell you whether you're right or wrong because I've been stuck in the ball mathematics. However, there's no proper mathematics for this. Understand? There's no mathematics that work. This cannot possibly work. When we look, I have a P1000 and a P900, right? I've had about 5 P900s, burnt them out, and I got a P1000. Whenever you see the leading edge of the moon, there's always rippling, always movement, there's rippling, as if it's in water. So outside of what we would call the firmament, and I think the firmament is made of that product called sky stone. Have you looked into sky stone?
No, if I had to guess, is that some sort of crystal or quartz?
It falls from the sky.
Okay.
It's 77% pure oxygen. It can't be cut by a diamond. And it can withstand 5,000 degrees Celsius or centigrade. All metals have melted by 3,000 degrees.
So nothing's getting through that.
It's also made of silica. Nothing's getting through that. No. It's also supplying oxygen. Most people think trees supply oxygen. No, they don't. They just filter the carbon out. They take the carbon to build the tree body or the plant body and give us back the clean oxygen. But where is it coming from? It's not coming from the krill in the ocean. So in the firmament, in the dome, it separates the waters below from the waters above. And when I look at the moon, there's always rippling going on. Now, I know that Crow 777 is told about the parallel line that moves up.
You just made me so
I
happy.
haven't yet.
Another man I love. I watch Secrets of Saturn every Wednesday.
So the thing is that, as I mentioned, there are many really cool characters in America and Europe. Here in Australia, not so many. If you think you have trouble in America saying what you're saying, here in Australia, I tell you that I have such a difficult time having a proper conversation with anyone. They don't know what I'm saying.
We can have as many
They
conversations.
don't understand it.
We could be best friends, Achintya.
We already are.
Yes, we are.
We already are, Geo, right?
Yes, hell yeah, that's right.
Okay, Geo of the Angels.
That's true. D'Angelo of the Angels. And it's funny, my first name is Jokino, which comes from the Hebrew name Joachim, Joachim, which is the father of the Virgin Mary. But when you look at my name the way it's spelled now, it's a literal translation of a small game, because gioco in Italian is like a game or a toy, and then anything kino is small. So it's funny where these words come in.
Very good, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to do with you characters, I was saying the word dharma.
Yeah.
Now we have what's called the forbidden letter. It's called A, the A, right? A letter. So if you have the word theist, which means God aware, and you put an A in front, it means atheist, not God aware. Gnostic, knowing of God. Agnostic. Dharma, put an A in front. Dharma means your religious or spiritual occupation. Adharma means not following that. So getting back to the Hebrew, that's what's called Adamic man. They're not following Dharma practices. That's why we're in a mess. That's why they want to control the narrative, is because, so many sheep. So you have the sheepdog. If you're the shepherd, right, you have the sheepdog. And the sheepdog are like the forces, the police are like the sheepdog, right? And the populace are like the sheep. But if you look, Jesus was the shepherd of man, but Krishna is the cow herder, right? So,
Right.
so in the word, the Sanskrit word for cow is go, G-O. And that's why we have the word goyim, right? You're nothing but cows. You deserve to be treated like this from the Ashkenazi, the perverted side of Hebrew, the Kabbalah dialogue. We're nothing but sheep and cattle. We need to be in the pen, in the penitentiary, right? In the prison house.
Yeah, and the Social
So
Security is our cattle number. Yeah.
And this in Sanskrit, they call there are three primary gods in Sanskrit: Vishnu or Narayan, Krishna, Brahma, which you would know as Abraham, Abraham, and then you have Shiva, and they all have a partner. Lakshmi, Vishnu, Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, lady luck. When you say good luck, you're saying God and Lakshmi be with you. You understand? When you say good luck, God and Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, good fortune. Brahma's partner is Sarah or Saraswati. And Shiva's partner is Kali, as in, she also has a name called Durga. Durga means superintendent of the prison. The material world where we live, where karma is reaction and reaction and reaction. Karma yoga is daily activity, not guided by spiritual activity. I've got some monies, I bought some dead animals, I'm eating the animal, then I'm sick. There's some karma there. So this is called the earth plane, the circle, is known as the prison house of the material world. You cannot escape it through the dome. You can't get past the outer ring, and you can't dig in any deeper than the Russians did in the what's it called? The deep hole in the coal deep hole, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think
the drill is becoming. It's getting all messed up.
I think Spirit Science, right? Spirit Science had a video on that. One of those channels,
something like that. I know the 8 miles past the crust or something. That's how much they got up to.
Right.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to share is the only way out of this place is to correct your karma. It's the only way here is to act in a non-violent, in a non-reactive way, meaning you remain humble. You give honor even to your enemies, because we're here in a game. It's an unsatisfying game. All you do is eventually get some grey hair. If you're lucky, then if you're not lucky, chop, back in the cycle, right? But my point to you is, if you, when you use satellite navigation, I don't use it, but when you've got to put where you are in order to know where you're going. If you don't know where you are, if these spiritualists think they're on a rotating ball, then they're simply the puppets of NASA. And we know what NASA means: to lie, cheat, and beguile, right? Look up NASA in a Sanskrit English dictionary. It gets worse than what the Hebrews are saying. So what I'm trying to say is, if you think you're on this ball, then you don't know where you are. So how can you know where you're going? When you're on the flat plane and you realize where you are, then of course it's like knowing where you are. You're in a maze. In that movie, The Shining, the little child is in the maze in the snow. Well, he knows how to get into the maze, right? and then someone is chasing, Jack Nicholson chasing him. So then he backtracks on his own tracks to confuse the man who's chasing. But eventually he can get out because he knows where he came in. But because we're so ignorant as divine beings, but in ignorance, that when we're coming down the birth canal, our memory is taken away. In the womb, we're actually going like this, please, not again, please, no more birth. There's so much suffering, no. But anyway, in the canal, everyone is popped into the world. The first thing they're doing is crying. Gasping for air, and then crying. So until we... Say again?
I was suffocating too.
With the umbilical cord.
I was blue as a Smurf. They had to suck me out like my head was elongated. I looked like a Neanderthal.
Well, so, when you look at an Indian priest, he has a white cotton around his neck and then come down under his arm. It's called a Brahman thread. So when the umbilical cord is wrapped around like that, it's suggesting something else, that you actually got a God consciousness or a priestly-like character.
Wow.
That's what, and a blue baby, what color is Krishna?
Blue.
So if we understand this, right, when you say the blue Nile, in Sanskrit, the word is Nila. Nila means blue, Nila, Nila. So when you're saying blue Nile, you're actually saying blue twice, blue. I have a map that tells me the original name of the Nile was the Great Krishna River, or the Maha Krishna River. He has two names with the word Nila, Nila Madhava, Nila Chala. And if he has another name called Madhu Sudan. And if you have a look below Egypt, there's the Sudan. Sudan. S-U-D-A-N. It's exactly spelt the same way. So what I'm trying to share is that blue is not, how we say, it's not a contrary color, it's actually a positive. That's why we have a blue sky and blue ocean, like that.
My room is
now,
all blue in here.
Your room is blue.
Yeah, I could actually take off. We're actually sitting right next to each other, so we chose these backgrounds. But here, I'll prove it to you. Hold on. Let's see.
But while he's doing that, though, I mean, so like the physical nature of our material world, like the Vedic way, how it teaches, about Krishna, Radharani. Krishna would be like that blue light, the ether, I guess the below would be the below and his source energy, and then Radharani is the red light, magnetism, and like the above force.
Okay. So how we can understand that is this. Krishna is known as Madan Mohan. And what that means is, in our culture, we have Cupid with the arrow. So he makes the man and the woman and they fall in love, Cupid, right? Madan Mohan means he is so attractive that all the Cupids in all the universes are attracted to Krishna, to Madan Mohan. But Radha is known as Madan Mohan Mohini, which means that she is so attracted that Krishna is attracted to her. So when we're talking about magnetism, yes, I would say what Santos is suggesting is quite correct. But I would say the difference between Santos, there's a few differences. Love him. He's such a good man, such a good friend. I introduced him to the Vedic culture back in 2012. If you look on my channel, my YouTube channel, there's an interview with Santos Bonacci. And if you have a look on the background, like in my bookshelf, Bhagavad Gita is right behind his ear in the actual shot. So then I had a chance to explain to him what is called parampara, or disciplic succession. So Krishna taught Brahma how to create the world. Brahma creates the world and all the entities in the world. And we are what's called a sampradaya, or a school of learning, which is directly back to Krishna, back to Brahma. There's 4 sampradayas. One's through Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. One's through the 4 Kumaras, which you can find. One is Lord Shiva, Mahadev, and one is through Brahma. We call what's called the Brahma Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya. That's what all the Hare Krishnas are supposed to be in. Now, I'm not telling what this man or woman should be doing. We're all in the material world. We've all got the same information if we bother to look properly. If we go and inquire, we can decipher it nicely and make perhaps make some progress. But most devotees will think, oh, this Achintya Govinda, he's too way out. He's lost the plot. But we call it the science of self-realization, not the science of group realization or everybody else realization. It's the science of self-realization. Ultimately, I'm stuck. I need to get out of the mud. And Ray is stuck, and Ray needs to get himself out of the mud. You understand? But we can share the information. We can throw the little rope and we can pull a little bit. But ultimately, you still got to climb out of the quicksand or the bog, the Maya, M-I-Y-M-I-R-E, but it's the same word, Maya, M-A-Y-A, the illusion of the material world. Wow. So, for instance, when I talk about information that gets you closer to God, I call it sacred necessity, not synchronicity. Synchronicity is still, and I'm not saying what Santos is saying is wrong at all. I'm not saying that at all. We have primary school, and before that preschool, and then high school, and then eventually tertiary education. So what I'm trying to share is that it's up to us, only I can get me out of here. I've got to go and ask a teacher, a guru. My initiated name is Achintya Govanda, Das, servant, right? And Achintya means inconceivable, and Govinda means Lord of the cows, Lord of the cows. So, by the grace of listening and by the grace of inquiry, asking about sacred geometry of the 5 or 10 best teachers in the world. I've actually done video interviews with them. And you guys know that when you do the editing, you learn more of it. You're hearing it the second time and the third time, right? And by the time you do that to hundreds of experts, you imbibe, it comes into your person, into your reality. So most people will say, oh, you're doing some astrology, oh, you're doing some astronomy, oh, you're doing this and that. But actually, that's what is important, to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
I always say that.
Gemini power over here.
Thank you. So that's why we're friends, or we're attracted to each other. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but when I made my map, I'll just get it here for the folks, right? When I made this map, I noticed the 3 words. On the original one, it's Alexander Gleason. And in this 3 words, as it is. And the original map, Alexander Gleason's map, was made in 1892. And the guru that came from India to the West, his name was Srila Prabhupada. And when he wrote Bhagavad Gita, he said, as it is. So when I saw Alexander Gleason's 1892 map, I go, oh God, I've got to look at this much more intensely. I've got to really scrutinize what's happening. Now, if you have a look on my map, see this symbol? Do you know what symbol that is? It's Om.
Oh, Om.
Oh, the
well, so is this one. So is that. So is this one. They're all Om. You see? They're all 24 languages, different Om symbols. Because that word Om is being, it's enunciated, sounded 24 hours a day on the 24-hour clock. Somewhere, someone's saying Om. And if you're English, they'll be saying or When people are thinking to what to say next, they're nearly saying Om, for instance, right?
We do that a lot in America nowadays. And between every word. When we first started doing the podcast, we would literally, I'd sit back and like you're saying, go back and edit. And like, I'm sitting there and I'm listening. And I'm like, man, we're saying like every 3 words, man. We got to work on that. And
we've got to say Om instead.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm an audio engineer too. So I know that we also measure audio in ohms.
There you go. Yeah. See? So when they say in the beginning was the word, no. In the beginning was the sound vibration, and the sound vibration was Om.
The birth of Brahma, right?
Indeed. So some of the Hare Krishna people, this is not a criticism. They say, Om is impersonal. Impersonal means God doesn't have a personality. God's an energy, but not a person, not a person with likes and dislikes.
Yeah, no archetype.
Humans like to make things into other humans, though. We tend to symbolize things with human characteristics, but I totally have understood that since I was a kid. I always understood that God was not right.
Archetypes, like Gio just said, right? Archetypes. But the point is that Krishna is known Dehino Shmin Yantra Dehi. Dehino Shmin means in the heart chakra is a yantra. A yantra is a sacred diagram. That one will be the Sri Yantra. And he's sitting there. Dehino Shmin Yantra Dehi. And you, as a spark of God, are sitting right next to him. And this is like the devil is one shoulder and the angel is on the other shoulder. But actually, it's just you and God, right? So when you're doing the right thing, God shows he's happy and you experience bliss. You do the wrong thing, then God will show you he's unhappy, and then you'll have the headache, or you'll break your, you'll have some incidents. And what I'm trying to share is that's called Param Atma. Param means super and Atma means soul. That's where that word atom is coming from. So when we're listening very carefully, sometimes the syllables are changed around. So what's the difference between Christy and Kirsty? The way the RI or IR is written in the word. So we have all these things that are left in plain sight. So when I saw as it is on Alexander Gleason's map, then immediately I had to do it properly. So then I learned how to put this one. Now, see this symbol here? You can't see it very well. That's Sri Yantra. The Sri Yantra is Om in a diagrammatic illustration. There's supposed to be 16 lotus petals and then 8 lotus petals. Then there's 5 triangles pointing down and 4 pointing up. So the 16 petals is the R, and the 8 petals is the U, and the hum is the 9 triangles, 5 against 4. A-U-M. Oh. So the center, you know, you've heard that NASA has recorded the sound of the sun in space, and supposedly making the sound Om in a frequency we can't hear. So that's the other thing. We can only see a certain bandwidth of the electromagnetic color range, only a certain bandwidth of audio. So when we're doing things properly, we can actually hear the sound of God in our hearts, but it's not a sound at all. It's actually just an inner sensation, a feeling,
a presence.
And that's what I'm trying to share is when you're on the right track, you will feel comfort in the heart. And that comfort is being distributed by the super soul or the God particle in every living thing. You see, so we're all suffering what's called Ananda Moya Via Sat. Sat is eternal, Ananda is bliss. The conditioned soul is always looking for bliss. But if they see bliss in some artificial little thing, don't mean to be rude, but go to a rock concert. Let's go and see Led Zeppelin, for instance. And then you find out that Jimmy Page had a very questionable background. So, you know, you may say, I felt really good listening to Stairway to Heaven. I sing it. I know all the words. But then there's a downside. And the downside is one's material satisfaction and the other one that we're all looking for is called spiritual satisfaction. And we have to learn how to understand that. And how we understand that is become non-violent, become humble, have compassion, and all those esoteric teachings. Until we actually imbue that and act upon it, then the Lord is knocking on your soul's door. He's knocking. No one can hear. Why? Because they're still eating meat, which is the destruction of living beings. They're still fornicating, having sex everywhere with anything that will reciprocate with them. They're gambling everything, their life away, Ladbrokes and all this betting and nonsense. And then they're getting it intoxicated. The juice, that nectar, like that. So while we're doing those sorts of things extremely, then God is knocking. Hello, is anybody home? But there's no reciprocation between the jiva, that's me, the living entity, the jivatma, the individual atom, spiritual atomic particle, atmic particle, and the super soul. You see, you guys are obviously listening to your super soul. So you're looking, who can be my teacher? Who can we share some time with, etc. You're looking like that. Now, I'll just show you something else. You haven't seen this one. This is another one of my flat earth maps. And what you can see is the 7 sisters of the Pleiades on the right and the rainbow serpent. So this was done by an Indigenous Australian. And I said to him, is the earth a ball or is the earth flat? And he said, flat. And I said to him, if I give you this image on a black canvas, will you paint the creation of the dreaming? Right? This is Indigenous Australian flat earth map with the dreaming of the oldest culture in the world. There may be some arguments about that, but they're extremely old. But this culture, the 7 sisters, of course, is one, the Pleiades or Subaru. But that's only 7 females. Where did the 7 men come, or the 7 demigod men? They came from Ursa Major. And they came, right? And they cut the world up and divided it like this and that. But what I want to share with you, I presume you've come across all this stuff about the ancient living beings that are in stone, the giants and the mountains, the trees. You've seen all that. Yeah.
A bit, yes.
Well, it's real.
Hmm.
And I'm going to tell you something that no one yet knows. No one has spoken this. If you use Google Earth and you look into the oceans and you go in deep, you will see all these tracks all the way along the sea floor. Thousands and thousands of them. And they're up to 8 miles, 12 miles wide, and sometimes more than 1,200 miles long. If you use down the bottom of Google Earth, there's what's called an elevation. Have you ever noticed that elevation? Not you, how far the image is, but actually how high you are as you're running the cursor. So if you were running the cursor, if you were running the cursor at the Grand Canyon, then you ran in the cursor down the bottom, it'll tell you how deep the canyon is, right? Tell you what height Utah is, or New York, or Everest, or whatever. Now, here's the point. Between here and New Zealand, there are some flat things. They're called table mounts, or they're called sea mounts. And they're the same as the Devil's Butte. Have I got that right? Devil's Butte, Black Mountain. You know, the flat tree with the hexagonals. Where is it? In Utah, in America, isn't it? Where is it? It's called the Devil's Tower.
Oh, that's in isn't it Vegas or Nevada?
Wherever it is.
I was going to say
right?
Nevada, I think. Either that or New
I'm looking
Mexico,
it up right now.
maybe.
Devil's Tower, or yeah, maybe New Mexico. I'm looking.
Well, between here and New Zealand, there are these. They don't come to the surface. They're just 500 feet underneath the surface of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
They're 15,000 feet tall.
Wyoming.
And they're flat. They're flat. And they go all the way to the sea bottom. Now, have you seen what's called an underwater fissure? Where like they go down to the deep depths of the ocean, and they found those creatures that are living next to volcanic fissure.
Yeah, okay.
And the water is super hot. And there's no light, no sunlight is down there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You have those scary looking things with the light on them, right? What are those fishes? They're like crazy looking fish, and they're all the way at the bottom, and they actually have a little light that comes and lights up there so they could see, I guess.
Right. So here's my point to you. Every square meter of ocean, of just water, just plain water, every cubic meter, a meter by a meter by a meter, every cubic meter equals 1 ton. If it's got salt and other elements in it, it will be heavier than fresh water. If something is 15,000 feet or 5,000 meters deep, it's got 5,000 tons per square meter, at least, pressure of cold water sitting on the fissure. Because every 30 feet, every 10 meters is 1 atmosphere. You understand what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, have you ever heard Neil deGrasse Tyson? And he talks about how high the mountains are. And if you were big enough to touch, you wouldn't even feel Mount Everest in the pores of your skin, in the fingerprint. You ever heard him say that?
I've never heard him say it, but that's only because I was told he was a shill, so I didn't watch him. That's the only reason why.
Yeah.
But listen to this, right? What's the tallest mountain in the world? Everyone says it's Himalayas, Mount Everest. What's actually the tallest mountain in the world? The large island of Hawaii.
Oh.
Because there's sea level, it's got a huge mountain, and it goes all the way to the ocean floor.
Oh,
It's 35,000. So from the ocean floor right? You can do this for yourself. Ever get an image of the world with no water? Take the water away and seen what shape this is supposed to be? It can't rotate. The only reason we see this smoothly is because the water on it. So what's called topography means land above the sea, or height of the land above the sea. What's called bathymetry is the depths under the sea. So if you look for images of the world with no ocean, then you can see that all these islands go to the bottom of the sea. They are ancient petrified trees.
Wow.
These islands where people are sitting on, if they're like the gold, in Queensland we have the Great Barrier Reef, but it's very shallow. See, here it's shallow. Whoops, here it's shallow. All the way to Papua, this light color blue. You see this darker color blue, it becomes deep. So what's called a table mount or a sea mount is something that comes up from the bottom of the sea bed, and now is rock, and then it's cut flat, just sitting underneath the sea. No need to avoid with a ship because it's 500 feet or 400 feet. But if you look, especially on videos of this world with no water, all the islands in the world go all the way to the ocean floor. They can't be floating. So when with Google Earth, all you can do is look top down, except on the street level. Then you can look sideways, but no one, I haven't seen yet. You can't go underneath the ocean and look like this way on Google Earth, right? Look side on. But what I'm saying is that the biggest islands are actually petrified giant trees, and it cannot come from an explosion of volcano under the water, because the cold water is suppressing the element of fire. There you go. That's pretty good. So the one you're looking at, this gray one, you can actually get a video of that, and you can see as it rotates.
There should be one on YouTube, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
So just Earth with no water.
It's like the same thing with Mariana's Trench too, you know.
Well, see the second video there. Let this one come up.
And the second one you meant on the page before?
Yeah, the second video.
You want me to go back?
Line.
Okay. Right here.
So what I'm trying to share is that they're calling it continental plates and continental drift. See, even that's rotating the wrong way round. But see these hairbrushes, like see those spikes?
Yeah.
They're islands. Just pause it. Just pause it for a second. See the big one in front of us. See? Oh, look what you're doing. See? There's the plane. Then there's all these things that are really high. Yeah?
Right.
They're petrified trees. And what's happened is when they were growing, right, they had to be growing in soil and in fresh water. No trees can grow in salt water, just some mangrove plants. That's it. And then that land would have sunk to the bottom, and then the water would have come up and changed the coastline. There's no such thing as continental drift. This is nonsense. There is land subsiding and coming back up and things like that. But if you have a look at how many islands, it's just like a brush. See how it looks? So press play again, Ray. See, you can see the continental shelf, and then you can see these islands.
Right.
They're all petrified giant trees. Never mind what you see on the land, what's going on under the sea. See those angles in the top right? See on the left, on the curve there? They're all trees. They're under the sea. And some human beings are sitting on the top of some of them, and they're islands.
Wow.
Do you see what I'm suggesting here?
Yeah, I didn't know this even existed, man. This is crazy. Meaning
Well,
the visual of this.
Well, I'm not one of these guys who idly sits around and follows what everyone else is saying. I'm actually a photographer of over 50 years, and I will use what tools I can. And when I've been looking at this ball without water, but what this reveals is simply that what they're telling you in geological sense is absolute nonsense, because they say that erosion is happening by water and or wind. So how do they explain the image we're looking at right now with water or wind?
And they'll try, and just talking as if I was the, playing devil's advocate, they would say the shifting of tectonic plates and stuff, but that there's only tectonic, the shifting of tectonic plates, that just seems too fine of a rise to be from tectonic plate shifting.
So when we're looking at, say, an architectural drawing, when we're looking down, we're looking on the plan. When we're looking side on, we're looking at the elevation. We're looking here at the elevation. They cannot explain how those islands are going all the way to the sea floor, the bed of the sea. And what I said before, if it was a volcanic fissure, how with all that water pressure can it actually explode or come up? It cannot come up with 20,000 tons per square meter of freezing cold and salt and other things, right? It cannot push up against that water.
So you're saying you're saying you don't think that it's even volcanic eruption that's just solidifying as it comes out either, or has, if it did in the, okay.
No, because if we were to look at Hawaii, where is the volcano? Above the ground, above the sea. And it's spilling everything down and creating some, but it never forms hexagonal crystals. So these are, what I'm trying to share is, have a look. I would like the geologists to explain what I've just said in their terms. And any man with common sense will realize, hold on, this is really weird. The other thing is that, remember I told you about the creator, Lord Brahma. He's born on a giant lotus. It comes from Vishnu's belly button on a giant lotus. And when it's so dark, he can't see. So he has to meditate. And he climbs over the side of the lotus flower and climbs down the stalk. But after some time, he can't see anything still. So he climbs back up and sits back on the lotus flower. You can look this up for yourself in due course. But what he's doing is he's praying. He's asking Krishna or whoever. He doesn't even know who Krishna is at all. He doesn't know he's born of Vishnu. He has no idea. But the Lord of the creation in this world, Brahma, he was on a lotus, on a plant, so tall he could never find the bottom of it. So giant plants and giant things are always in the Vedas, in Sanskrit. So for instance, when Krishna was here in this world, just as a side issue, his parents are called Devaki and Vasudeva. So I'm going to tell a couple of things here so you know. Now, Devaki, his mother, and the father were locked in a jail. The jail was Kamsa. Kamsa had a jail. It was underground, right? Underground. And he was taking, like a chariot driver, he was taking his sister to her wedding. And a voice came from the sky and said, don't you know that the 8th son of your sister will kill you? So Kamsa grabs her by the hair, pulls out his sword. He's about to chop her head. But then Vasudeva says, you can't kill your sister on her wedding day. You'll be known as the most heinous criminal. He said, what we can do, Vasudeva said, what we can do is every time we have a child, we'll give you the child when it's born. Okay? But Kamsa said, okay, but you'll have to go in the jail, underground, you'll have to go in the jail. So men and women produce children. So the first child is a boy, and Vasudeva, the baby is born, and Vasudeva gives the child to Kamsa, and Kamsa smashes his head immediately. The child on the jailhouse wall, crack. The child is killed. And the first 6 children are killed like that. Now, Krishna is the 8th child. So there is a lady, her name is Rohini. Rohini comes to see Devaki in the jailhouse. And Devaki is seemingly pregnant. And then Rohini, when she walks out, the pregnancy has jumped into the womb, out of one woman's womb into the other womb. And she just walked out. Rohini walked in and Rohini walked out. Rohini was not pregnant, and then she was pregnant. So the 7th child is now gone to another place. But Kamsa, he didn't understand. So he got very, very angry. Very angry. That child is known as Balaram, or Krishna's elder brother. So when she is pregnant for the 8th time, the child, what Krishna does is he makes everyone go to sleep. Everyone's asleep. The guards are asleep. And he gets his father to carry a basket on his head. And that's what's on the head. The baby is in the basket. And then Vasudeva crosses the river and then swaps the child for a newborn baby girl, brings it back. So now Kamsa can't kill it because it's not a boy child. But here's the reference to the Hebrew. The word, and this is to the Greek, the word Christopher means to carry or bear the Christ child. It is nothing to do with Jesus. When carrying the baby across the river, this is like Moses, like the separation of the seas, the separation of the river. When we understand that Mother Devaki, her dynasty is called Yadu. And when you call a son of a Yadu, you can call him Yadava. And when you're calling, or you can say, hey, Yadava, hey. And Krishna's father is called Vasudeva. He's the Christ bearer, the Christopher. That's why you have a patron saint of traveling, Saint Christopher. He's carrying the baby. Vasudeva, he is a Vrishni, but when it's father to son, you can just change a little diacritic mark. So Krishna's father is known as Vasudeva, and Krishna himself is Vasudeva. So you can say Vasudeva, hey. So using the 2 mother and father dynastic lineage, You can say Yadavahe Vasudevhe, which is known as the Tetragrammaton Yod-He Vah-He, which is known as Yahweh, which is now Jehovah.
Wow.
So what I'm trying to share to you is the reason that Krishna consciousness is here, all the books are there to be read. Why has Santos become so attracted to the Krishna is because he understood the attraction of Radha and Krishna, or the red and the blue, we can say. And Krishna has blue skin, but Radharani always wears a red sari, by the way. So the blue and the red, that's the phase shifting, that's the electromagnetic. Now let's get back to the sun. The sun is rotating in the water. The electromagnetics is producing a gas. The gas is the thing that's burning. The sun is not a hydrogen fusion or fission. It's not that. It's actually what I think it is it's a HHO, or the splitting of water into its elements, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen, burning 1 gas in the oxygen. That's why if you touch your car roof or the tarmac or the concrete in a hot sunny day, you'll get burnt really quick. Ouch. But if you touch the grass or the green of the plants, then you can't get burnt. That's the reaction of that sunlight onto metals and or rocks. You understand? But when you're sitting on the grass, you can't put your hands down behind you and get burnt from the grass. So that's a specific symptom of HHO burning in it. Like instead of acetylene, you put the HHO and you can run it across your hand and it won't burn you. Can't hold it for long. It'll still burn you because there's calcium in your bones. There's metal in there somewhere, right? But how this world is working is an electromagnetic motor generated thing that's in perfect synchronicity. And where the planets are in each constellation, you can read that as astrology, and observing it with yourself is astronomy, right? So what I'm trying to, and the word, by the way, Lord Brahma has a weapon called a Brahmastra, and it's a nuclear weapon. Right?
Yeah.
So hopefully I've shared some things with you that you can be happy to understand and look into. This world,
absolutely, plenty.
and by the way, in a dish, in a flat world, those trees grow upright. So in that ball of those trees, we'll call them islands, they're all at angles. This can't be true. Right?
I see. What was I going to say? What's interesting is because even this depiction that you gave about, about the firmament and at it being more of like a water, so to say, even in the Sumerian tablets, which we've just been going through in our podcast, when it talks about the creation of, the primordial substance of Apsu, they had the primordial god Apsu, known to be of the fresh water, and then Tiamat being the primordial substance of this the salt water, and it was almost they had combined, and it's known to be the Apsu's the above and Tiamat the below, and even in the story saying the splitting of Tiamat being who fashions itself as part of it as the below and earth, and even coming to be the asteroid belt as well, or something along those lines. So it's crazy how you see the similarity and the synchronicity even with that too.
Well, there are what's in Sanskrit, there is called Das Avatar, 10 avatars. And Matsya is the fish, and there's a flood story. Korma is a flood story. Korma is the tortoise, the turtle. Turtle Island, right?
Yeah. And
You've heard that.
Don't they say the universe is on top of the turtle's back?
And one of the
Correct.
gods in the ancient stories is a fish. Is it related to that?
Yeah, Matsya. Matsya is the
right.
fish.
And that was and what culture was that? Or was there multiple?
This one's Sanskrit.
Sanskrit? Okay. I just had watched something on that as well with mermaids and also the fish god that came and taught everybody the knowledge and then had departed and they waited for him. I might have even been Atlantis, the one I'm thinking of.
Well, so let's talk about those things. So the word, let's just understand the structure. I've written it all on my map. The text has got this in there. Where we are as a circle, flat, this is called Bhumandal, or Bu is the earth goddess. It's also known as Sudasan. Sorry, it's called the Nila, Sudarshana Nila, the blue circle. Sudarshana means a spinning, rotating disc weapon, right? So you've seen shurikens, like, and anyway, these dust avatars, they come into the material world and save the world from drowning. The world can sometimes get drowned. That's right. So then Varaha has a nose, and in the old pictures, there's a flat, round, circle world with buildings. But after the British got to India, they put a globe on his nose. So they cheated everyone. They cheated everyone, even in the Vedic culture. But the one part of the Das Avatar is called Vamana. We can call Vamana as well. Vamana. He's known as the Dwarf Brahman. Now, Vamana, he met a king named Bali. And he said, begging nice, he said to the king, can I just have 3 steps of land? So, you know, you and I might walk a meter each step. So imagine that the landlord says, yes, you can have 3 meters square. Well, he's a dwarf. A Brahmin but he's a dwarf, very small. So when the king says all you want is 3 steps of land, okay, we can give that. I can give you 3 steps. So what the first step he did was he took his right foot and brought it around behind the heel of his left foot. Now, some people think it was over and around the ball to come behind, but actually we now know it had to be a circle. So that's why there's those stances in martial arts where the foot is going out in a circle, in Tai Chi and in yoga. Mm-hmm. But the second step, what Varman did with the toe, his little toe, the toenail on his little toe, he smashed through the dome. That he smashed through the firmament. That's called the rift, right? The rip. That's called the rift or the rip. And what happened was that the fresh water came down. It came down to the Himalayas, and Lord Shiva has dreadlocks. And he had to sit there and let the celestial Ganges land on his head and separate into 4 rivers. The Ganges, the Indus, the Brahmaputra, one other, I think it's maybe the Jamuna. I may be wrong. But the point I'm trying to share is so he did that, let the fresh water in and then get separated. That could have created an element of extra water in our world, created a less habitable place. I think that the world was actually more above water. There was less salt water in previous times. You know, so in the golden age, there may have been more land. There was more clean and fresh water. I don't know exactly, because still to this day, the elevated souls and the texts themselves have not been discovered to clarify the issue. So then the Brahman, Vamana, says to King Bali, where will I put my third step? See, because I've taken your earth and I've taken the heavens. So Bali put his head on the ground in front. He said, with your third step, put your foot on my head. I'm surrendered now unto you. That's it. That's where we get the word, do you understand? You know, when the police are asking you, you were speeding, do you understand? You've broken the law, do you understand? They repeat this question over and over, because understand means putting their boot on your head. If you say yes, you're agreeing that the authority can put its foot on your head. But if you're a divinity, you say, I heard everything you said.
Words of power.
You may even say, I don't understand. You could say like that, but it's better to disenfranchise the whole question.
Mm-hmm.
So authorities are always trying to make sure your head is on the ground and their foot is on your head. You'll have to pay interest on this bank loan. Do you understand? That's the banker, the real estate man. He's saying, you'll have to pay so much month rent and you'll get some insurance. Do you understand? Yes, I'll put my foot on your head, right? So this world is a prison planet, right? So people like Alex Jones, he was right.
Yeah.
But the Vedas has told us, the Sanskrit scriptures have told us forever. This is a prison planet, and by following dharma, activities of God consciousness, you will alter your karma, then you'll get the mercy of the God or the teachers first to come into your life. And if you're receptive in a humble state of mind, thinking yourself low and tolerant, the synchronicities become sacrednicity. And then you'll make quantitative jumps in your spiritual awareness. Because ultimately, God, Krishna, can see everything. I might even say it like this. When we're praying or making some meditation, we're asking for something. But shouldn't we be saying, you know me better than I know me? Can you just do for me what I need? Not what I want. Not what I think I want, right? Because every one of those thoughts is connection back to karma and then reincarnation down the slippery slope called the canal, the birth canal, right? And that's what entraps us. That is actually the truth. What's called dog Latin, or what's called legalese, is the Latin use of Latin language to make you a prisoner. Mm-hmm. You see, so the current or the currency is in the banks or between the river banks, right? The whole lot is spelling you. But until you understand what Krishna is saying through Sanskrit and the pure devotees are saying, and I'll stress this point, just because someone looks like they're a Hare Krishna doesn't mean they are, right? We're not this outer clothing. We're not that. It's what's going on in your heart and your mind and how you connected the two things. No use having a good heart and all you want to do is have sex relations with the pretty girls. This is just all nonsense. You see, you have to connect the two things. The polarity, heart and mind, have to be in synchronicity. And then if you're doing Ad Krishna, you get sacrednicity. It's not me telling you all these things because I've got a brain. This is not true. Krishna is using me as a voice, as an instrument to tell what's happening. See?
Yeah. It's all. Wow. I mean, absolutely, by far one of the most enlightening conversations I've ever had. And also they're very different from just a normal intellectual conversation. This is one that I feel like was actually felt. You feel the divinity, you feel the connection, you feel how that comes into play. And I'm just honored to have this conversation. There's so many more conversations to be had with you. I really
that Dharma feeling you mentioned before, I was gonna say it that I do have a vibe. We both have water moons too, so I'm a Cancer moon. He's a Pisces moon. We feel everything like no other, and I totally. I've been tuned in this whole time, man. You could tell by like my eyes having. I barely blink. I'm listening to you talk, and I could tell we're supposed to be here. Like that's the feeling I have.
Well, Ray, anytime you want to chat, you now know the sequence of the 15 hours-ish between us.
Yeah.
It can be 7 or 15, whichever, say 9 and 15, whatever it is.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk to you guys again, and hopefully I won't repeat myself. I'll only tell you things that are adjuncts to that.
We'll bring questions so you don't, so we can drive the vehicle too, and then maybe that'll help. You know, I have probably a million questions to ask you. So
Yeah, me too.
I do have one I would love to ask you right now because you're a man of all this knowledge. With astrology, if I'm following my nodal astrology, does that keep me in the wheel of karma?
So I'm not an astrologer,
I've heard that
but
said,
we know
that Vedic astrology, they say that the Vedic believes if you're going to follow your earthly karma, then you are going to be stuck in the wheel, regardless if you're doing the North Node, which would that's where your soul wants to shoot. It's what you're here to learn. So I've heard different, opinions about it, but I figured I'd ask.
So we know, we know, I know a lot of Vedic astrologers, and of course they have to know the Western system. They have to. So I would ask them, what is the difference between Western astrology and Vedic astrology? And they go 23 degrees. I said, it's 23.4. It's the tilt on the axis that is putting the two systems out by 23.4 degrees. And when he asked me, why are you so specific? And I go, because that math doesn't work. 23.4 tilt, 23.4 degrees between the two tropics. The polar circle is 23.5, but actually there's a cheating reason why they've done that. You can work it out if you think it through. So it's 66.5 and 23.5 for the Arctic circle around the North Pole. Now, the North nodes and the South nodes are known as the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. They're known as Rahu and Ketu. Now, Rahu is the head, and Ketu is the tail, as far as I know. And Rahu and Ketu are the ones that attack the sun. They attack the sun. What do you mean attack? Well, with a knife, attack the sun. That's what's creating the eclipses. It's got nothing to do with shadow play of Earth, Moon, and Sun. This is stupid nonsense. But Rahu and Ketu are attacking the sun. That's what they do. And they're creating solar and lunar, partial and full eclipses. Now, just so you know, there's a mountain in the Himalayas called K2.
Seen that.
So that around the world, there are coded things like, for instance, Machu Picchu, in South America. In Nepal, there's another mountain called Macha Pukari.
Wow. So
how can Nepal and Machu Picchu in South America be so similar sounding? So the trick is to understand that the navigators were the ones who named everywhere, and they're Sanskrit. So the country Syria, we call it Syria in English. They call Surya. Surya means sun god. So Somalia, Soma Chandra, the Horn of Africa, Somalia. Soma is the moon god, Soma Chandra. Yemen is the god of death, Skanda, Scandinavia, the place where Skanda's navy resides, Scandinavia. That's Skanda, the Aryan god of war, known as Ares. He's also known as Mars or Marduk, right? Now, the problem with the Sumerian angle is when Zechariah Sitchin was translating those books, Zechariah didn't even notice that in his own name is the word Hari, Hari, is a subset of the word Zechariah. But he uses the word E, Zechariah. So in Sanskrit, that word would be Acharya. Acharya means a teacher by example or a guru.
I have a book
So being
with that author, Acharya, right? Light of Egypt?
Yeah.
Volume 1 and
Acharya,
2.
Acharya is meaning teacher by example. So what I'll share is this. The influences are 23.4. Here's another point to understand. India is solar lunar, Vedic solar lunar astrology. Western is sun-based and Chinese is lunar-based. Right? So the point is that astrology, according to those who interpret it, can be explained through the solar, lunar, and or the lunar separately. But because there's 23.4 degrees of tilt that shouldn't be there. So for instance, I don't think there's any such thing as precession of the equinox. I think that's bogus. I want other people to look into that. I don't want to, I get feelings about certain things and then I go, So the precession is also based, though, on a Vedic maths number, 25,920. And you'll see that will fit back into that 432 sequence. Right. It has to. So just like I don't think that there's continental shift movement and volcano doing this and that, I think it's a much different thing. I think the whole science of geology is wrong. I think the whole science of history is wrong. So let's get back to what I was sharing about the names, geographical names of the worlds. In our world, we're Bhumandala. The next layer below us, there are 7 layers deeper and deeper into the crust. The first one is called Patala Loka. Loka means location. Patala is where they get the word Atalantis. Patala. It's below the crust. Here where we live, below us is another group of beings. So what I'm sharing is I don't think UFOs can come through the dome. I think they may be able to come through wormholes or stargates, but primarily I'm saying they're coming from under the sea. And that's what I said before about those extremely long lines that are thousands of miles long, and then they change, but they're 8 miles wide. So imagine someone who cut a line through America 8 miles wide in a dead straight line over every hill and valley, over all the plains and then back over the hills and valleys. Under the sea, there is evidence of hundreds and thousands of miles of that. And what that tells me is that the people from Patala Loka are mining the seabed. They've got machines you could not possibly imagine, but we cannot go there. Like we can't go through the dome, we can't go through the ice wall, and we can't go deep into the sea because of the pressure. We can't even go deep into the crust as we discussed with the borehole. So we are stuck here, but below us, below Patala Loka is Mahatala, Talatala, like there's 7 different realms, right? So you could still say this earth was a ball, but you can't really because there's circular worlds around us as well on the flat plane. There's different oceans there. But what I'm trying to share is that the word Arun Odadi means Red Sea, where the sun is so red and sets or rises on the sea. Arun Odadi, which we think the Red Sea is between Egypt and Arabia. No, the Red Sea is between Madagascar and Africa. So remember I said that the Nile is actually blue, Nila. It's the longest river. And of course, it comes from the southern hemisphere around to the Mediterranean. Mediterranean means Middle Earth, Ter, Medit, Ter. But actually in Sanskrit, it's called Madhya Dara, which means Middle Earth. So where India is, let's find India. Now, India had the original timeline. When Krishna was in India, there was a timeline like Greenwich Mean Time. Do you follow?
No.
And what's on the opposite side is America. America in the south especially is called Atalan, Atitlan, right? And there's places close to you, Mexicali. Mexicali, the goddess Kali is Shiva's wife. Right. You see? So what I'm trying to say is Belize, Belish. This is Sanskrit for Shiva. So this world, it was all named by Sanskrit people who traveled all over the oceans, traveled all over the lands, and they made the nautical mile the navigator's system. They did that. Now the Indians, one of the things they're famous for is they will make a temple in India, cut the stone in the blocks. They put the blocks on a ship, and they'll ship the whole temple and then erect it. So when you see temples in Southeast Asia and South America, and they look very similar, it's because the Indians literally cut the rocks and shipped them and then erected them. And that's all the way through South America and all Chile, Peru, and things like that. I'm sure, for instance, the Sanskrit word for a rock or a mountain is Shila. And the country's called Chile with the Andes Mountains. And Krishna, when he was here, there were two dynasties. They were brothers. One was called the Purus or the Pandavas, and the other one was the Kurus or the Kurava. And that you got Uruguay, you got Uluru. The Urus were everywhere around the world. Now to say that, oh, well, what about ancient China? I go, well, Arjuna, Krishna is talking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Arjuna's guru was Chinese. He wasn't Indian. He's still Vedic culture, but he was Chinese. That's how we need to understand. So the whole world was Vedic. And as these Europeans went and colonized and did whatever they did, they Latinized it. With the Portuguese and the Spanish, in the South Pacific, it's French or Dutch, and of course the rest is English, right? So as soon as the English people, the problem with English people is they can't spell. That's why they call Peking, instead of calling it Beijing, they spelt Peking. Instead of calling it Mumbai, they said Bombay. So the whole world is ever so slightly wrong, because when an Englishman comes to a Hawaiian, like Captain Cook, he goes, what are you saying? Is that meaning, we'll spell it. We English people will spell the word you're saying in our language. But there's no correlation, right? So you see these errors. They're very slight, but they're very apparent. So, for instance, Peshawar was originally called Purushapur. In Sanskrit, they say Puri or Pura, Jagannath Puri. The word Jagannath has become the word Juggernaut, and Puri in Sanskrit is, in English, it's in Sanskrit, it's Puri. In English, it's Bury, as in Avesbury and Glastonbury.
Mm-hmm.
The whole world was mapped by the Sanskrit and the Tamil speaking. Tamil is a Shivite version of Sanskrit, one might say. The word ahoy, which is navigational terms, is not English. It is Tamil. Ahoy there, right? Language of the sea, hello. That's Tamil. The British just adopted it. So what I'm trying to share is this, that our whole history is perverted. It's been Spanishized. That's why they say pre-Columbian South America, right? Pre-Columbus. Before, what was happening there? Well, it was Vedic culture. That's why they didn't have a use for gold, right? They did, but they didn't. You didn't put gold in a bank and store it away. You made a gold plate or a gold cup. You might have even got gold dust and put it on your skin to be a sun god or whatever you did.
Representing
but gold
also,
didn't have the.
I heard you say in the documentary that everyone ate on gold plates and all that. And during the golden age, that gold was very abundant, and they used it like as if what we use today as like a plate or cup or anything. It was normal to have and in abundance.
In abundance, they say. And by the way, just south also of Egypt is Nubia. And there are two sets of pyramids, the Meroe, M-E-R-O-E, and the Merotic, two separate areas of pyramids. They're the really tall ones, not the squat ones. So what they say there, that the gold was through the sand, that they literally could just go and shake the sand and take the gold particles out of the sand, right? That's what they say.
Wow.
So what I'm trying to get at anyway, we can go on and on. Get used to using navigational terms,
right?
As in latitude and longitude is in, here's another way to prove. On the equator, in their model, every degree is 60 nautical miles. But you know where the Bering Strait is between Alaska and Russia? Because that's 65 degrees north, 60 nautical miles there is 3 degrees. So the same measurement, 60 nautical miles is 1 degree here. Over here, 60 nautical miles is 3 degrees. But Sarah Palin says you can see Russia from here. You can't see over 3 degrees of curvature. That's absolutely insane. So if you watch any of those shows like Bearings to See Gold or Life in Alaska and it's anywhere near the coast, they'll say, oh, you can see Russia from here. Yeah, not across 3 degrees of curvature, you can't.
No.
Hidden in plain
sight. So the curvature is this way. The curvature is following the latitudes, which is like getting a compass and scribing a circle from a point. And so when you understand those things, when you literally get it, for instance, if this marker here is 21,600 nautical miles, then the outer one has to be 43,200 miles. 432. It's a creation.
My music library, man. I actually literally, I pitch shift all my music down negative 32 semitones, all of it. 3 years, and everyone thought I was nuts. Especially a lot of musicians in America. They try to do the whole debunk it, and the temperament system doesn't work with it. But I follow Jamie Buturf. I forget where he's from, but he was a 432 guy, and I've been 3 years, man. I think since 2011, 12, and even saw past all the ridicule and nonsense that I was crazy and all that. But I'm used to that at that point. I don't even care. But that number has been very important in my life.
So that's the point. In Kali Yuga, there are 432,000 years, solar Earth years. The sun rotates 364, 5, whatever it is, times a year. That's why I use the term solar.
Uh-oh.
And the what's called dwarf, and the silver age is 1296, and the other one, the golden age, is 1728, 1.728 million. So if 1 was Kali Yuga, then 2, then 3, then 4 in that is 10. That's why Achintya Yuga is 4,320,000. And that's when I knew this place is created. As soon as I heard 21,600 nautical miles, I don't talk statute miles or kilometers. Forget it. Forget it. I will give a measurement for people to realize, but otherwise, no, it's not the system. So if someone's saying, yeah, but I'm at such and such latitude and longitude, and what's the distance? And then they say, oh, it's 600 miles. Bus. It's nautical or nothing to me. But people say, well, why? And I go, well, if you want to learn Sanskrit, you've got to use a different language. Tune your ears in, tune your head in, listen to the vibration, understand it. And if you want to understand the measurements in a creation, you best get with the creator's measurements and use them. And then it changes the synapses in your brain, quite literally. Literally.
I'd guess that, right? I think this whole conversation changed the vibration of my brain.
Yeah.
But I would, yeah.
So look, thank you very much, Ray and Gio. Thank you very much. You're very fantastic friends, and I can hear by how attentive you are. I can see how attentive you are. So hopefully many of these seeds of knowledge will come into your heart, and you'll be able to align everything with our brain, our mind, and that we will have many a conversation in the future.
I'm looking forward to it. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, we're definitely honored to be able to be passed along this knowledge and information along the way, and to continue what many of yourself and all these great teachers are passing along for future generations. I think this is the key to really dispersing what everybody wants to really see in the world, and it's all about planting those little seeds, and that's it.
Yeah, and we plan on I emailed Santos actually last night. He responded, so he'll also be on. And anybody else who we can get on, obviously you are gonna be on. We could do it once a month, man, once a week, whatever.
Yeah, because I already have there's other not even more questions, but also just things of further discussion that I'd love to go into. Obviously we could keep going on and on and on, but yeah, there's also more time to do this, and I'm happy that we have this connection with each other.
Thank you. Well, please have a look at my YouTube channel called the Sacred Space Project. And it's not based on outer space. It's about making the space between you and I, heart to heart, sacred.
100%. Okay.
Absolutely.
We're actually, Zoom records all the conversations. We were going to throw this up. We'll actually link your page.
Yeah. Anything you want linked in there, let us know, and we're going to put it in the description.
Well, as I say, the one thing I'm interested in is obviously this map, and I just will draw your attention His name was Alexander Gleason. His initials were AG. My name initiated is Achintya Govanda. It's also AG.
Yep.
I didn't know that till about half a year ago. I've gone, oh my God, what on earth is going on?
Hold
So
on.
why I was
You can keep talking,
on.
Gio. Hold on.
Okay. So why I was attracted to this map, I didn't want to become a flat earther. I was quite happy spinning and rotating and thinking I knew everything.
Yep.
Round and round and round, right? But the devotees, oh, look, there you go. He's brought my map out.
Highly suggest everybody get out.
Very good.
Get
Thank
that.
you. Yeah. So you guys just need to laminate that to protect it. That's why this is glossy. You put the matte finish on the outside. Only costs like $16 or $17. And you can bend it and crunch it and everything else, and it's all right.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to know is because the Hare Krishnas have built the biggest dome temple in the world. It's in a place called Mayapur, and it was supposed to be a planetarium. Now, my point was twofold. Firstly, you build a dome, but you don't accept the circular map. I wanted them to make the circular map in the floor of the temple. They think I'm a bozo. Whatever, doesn't matter. I happen to understand now what is sacred geometry. Well, it's also based on 360 degrees and a flat circle, all sacred geometry. And the other word I'll say is, do you know the word trigonometry? In Sanskrit, it's called trigonometry. Miti maths, corners, three, the maths of three corners or angles. Trigonometry is Sanskrit. It's not Greek. A squared plus B squared is not Greek. It's Sanskrit. So when we change our focus and our attention to this ancient Veda means knowledge, the Vedic knowledge, the Vedic maths, the Vedic astrology, etc. When you look on my channel, there is also what's called, there's an interview with a lady named Manju Maida, and she's talking about the word Vastu Shastra, the scripture of Vastu, which the Chinese call Feng Shui. So anyway, we can call it off for the moment. We can go on. I look forward to any time you wish to contact me, Ray. Gio, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Time and your humility and your interest in me gobbing on. La la la. They say that they say an empty vessel makes the most noise.
Well, no, to me, and I know to Ray too. It's more so music to our ears, and I'm glad to be able to, for us to be able to present it even more.
Yeah, wasn't there?
Thank you.
It was a Buddha quote, something about, always listening. That maybe it was Confucius, but one of those philosophers or one of those guys had said, like the wisest man is the most silent and the one who listens and observes. So, and me and Gio are just like,
we say Sravanam, hearing, then Kirtanam, repeating. Hearing is the most important sense you've got. You can see around corners with your ears. You can't see around corners unless you've got a mirror. But with your ears, you can know where a child is crying or a door is banging, or with your ears, you can hear. And so that's why I started what I said before. I have sat and listened to thousands of lectures and just shutting up and absorbing.
I could thank.
But anyway,
Alan, last thing I'll say, and then we can end this. But Alan Watts was the man who got me to shut up and listen. So he was my first. Him and actually a comedian, George Carlin, was first when I was a kid, and then that led me later on to Alan Watts, and I learned how to listen.
Anyway, brothers, we'll chat again, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Look forward to it.
And Ray, you must be a bit of a ray of sunshine, huh?
Actually,
Yeah. I got him. I went to Florida and I actually got him a cup, and because it reminded me of him. It might be mirrored, but there it goes.
I'm a fucking ray of fucking sunshine. All right, God bless, brothers.
God bless you. Thank you. All right.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Till next time.
Haribol. Till
We have
next
to
time.
Till next time. Yes. Take care.